My champagne flute slipped from my fingers, the delicate stem snapping against my aunt's tile floor. The amber liquid pooled around my sandals as my cousin Nikki's words echoed in my skull. "So, are you flying to Colorado for Fiona's wedding next month, or driving?" she asked, adjusting her sunglasses. "The mountain venue looks gorgeous in the photos." Time seemed to compress and expand simultaneously. Wedding? My sister was getting married? The backyard barbecue around me continued, children laughing by the sprinkler, my uncle flipping burgers, Tracy Lawrence playing from portable speakers, but I felt suspended in a pocket of silence. "I haven't decided yet," I managed, my mouth forming words my brain hadn't authorized. I excused myself to check the cooler for more ice, which was code for locking myself in my car with the air conditioning blasting, trying to understand how my own sister could be planning a wedding I knew nothing about. Nikki looked confused when I walked away. Clearly she thought I'd been invited, that I was just being my usual private self about my plans. "My name is Olivia. I'm 34 and a financial analyst. This is the story of how I became visible again. The truth was, I practically raised Fiona after our father died when she was 11. I was the one who taught her to drive, who helped her move into her freshman dorm, who sat with her through 3 breakups and 2 job losses. I was the emergency contact on all her forms. I was the one who loaned her rent money when she spent too much on concert tickets. I edited her graduate school applications. I drove 3 hours to surprise her on her 21st birthday with cupcakes from the bakery she loved as a child. And now she was marrying Victor, the same man I'd stayed up with her talking about for hours, analyzing his texts, deciphering his intentions, without even telling me. I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel, my breath creating small clouds on the dashboard. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Probably my mother wondering where I'd disappeared to. The same mother who must have known about this wedding, the same mother who hadn't thought to mention it. At first I couldn't identify what I was feeling. It wasn't anger exactly. It wasn't even sadness. It was the vertigo of realizing you've been existing in a different reality than everyone else. That while you've been showing up, remembering birthdays, making phone calls, asking questions, the people you thought were your inner circle have been constructing a life that carefully maneuvers around you. I waited 3 days before calling my mother, not because I needed to calm down. I was eerily calm already, but because I needed to understand what I wanted from the conversation. She answered on the second ring. "Hi, sweetie," she said, in that efficient, warm tone she reserved for casual acquaintances and service workers. I could picture her wiping down her spotless granite countertop, phone tucked between her ear and shoulder. "Is Fiona getting married?" I asked, no preamble, no cushioning. A pause. The sound of the refrigerator door closing. "Well," she said, as if I'd asked about the weather forecast. "Yes, next month, actually. We weren't sure if you'd be free." The air in my apartment seemed to thin. I didn't know it was happening. She laughed lightly. "Oh, Olivia, don't be dramatic." That word again, dramatic. The same word she'd used when I broke down at Dad's funeral, when I called crying after being passed over for promotion, when I confessed how lonely I'd been after moving to a new city. "You know," she continued, "Fiona wanted something small, just family." "I am family," I said, the words hollow even to my own ears. She sighed. "Yes, but you're always so busy with your work, and these things get complicated. Victor's parents had a lot of input and there were limited spots." She paused. "You're not upset, are you?" "I'm not sure what I am." A weighted silence stretched between us. "We thought it would be easier this way," she finally said. "Less pressure on everyone." Easier. That was the word that broke something in me. It wasn't that they forgot me. It was that I was the easy one to erase. I told her I had to get back to work, though I had taken the day off. She said, "All right, sweetheart," and just like that, we hung up. I stared at my phone for a long time. Then I opened my calendar, scrolled to next month, and looked at the weekend they'd be celebrating without me. Nothing scheduled, no invitation, no RSVP, no seat at the table. I didn't slam doors or post cryptic messages online. I didn't call Fiona to demand an explanation. I didn't draft a long, emotional email that would only be met with platitudes. Instead, I bought a ticket to Norway. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, not my colleagues, not my neighbor who usually collected my mail, not even my friend Renee, who had held my hand through 2 toxic relationships and knew my coffee order better than I did. I just stopped responding to messages. That Friday, I submitted a vacation request to HR, packed a small suitcase, and left a single sticky note on my refrigerator. Gone, don't wait up. The flight from Dallas to Oslo was peaceful. I didn't watch movies or read books. I just stared at the flight map on the seatback screen, watching the glowing white line arc over Greenland like a suture pulling continents together. By sunrise, I was standing in a rental cabin carved into a hillside of volcanic rock, half covered in moss and silence. The fjord outside looked impossibly still, reflecting the mountains like a mirror. The windows fogged with my breath in the morning. The shower smelled faintly of minerals. I loved it immediately. For 24 hours, I didn't check my phone. The second day, I hiked down to the edge of the water. There was a wooden dock extending into the fjord, and I sat at its edge until my fingers grew numb from the cold. I took a photo. Nothing staged, just a figure in a wool coat sitting by still water under a platinum sky. No caption, no location tag, just the image. I posted it to my Instagram story. Within minutes, the views started accumulating. Fiona, my cousin Nikki, my mother. No one said a word. I didn't expect them to. That wasn't the point. The point was that they saw me. Not at the bridal shower I wasn't invited to, not at the rehearsal dinner I didn't know about, not at the wedding planning brunch no one mentioned, but here, in a country of mountains and mist and profound silence, I had become momentarily visible. I posted nothing the next day, just existed. I drank bitter coffee from a ceramic mug and watched the fog roll in over the fjord. I wrote in my journal, nothing poetic, just lists of things I didn't have to do here. No small talk, no pretending I was fine, no RSVP, no gift registry, only me and the sound of water, lapping against rock. I knew the wedding was that weekend, though no one had said the date out loud to me. I pieced it together from social media breadcrumbs. My cousin Will had posted a boomerang of champagne flutes clinking with the caption, "Love is in the air," and someone else had tagged a luxury mountain resort 2 hours outside Denver. I'd seen posts mentioning T-3 weeks back when I first heard the news, and then spotted my family's travel posts with Denver location tags that matched the timeline. Saturday morning in Norway was silver and quiet. I sat by the window with a blanket over my legs and watched light creep slowly across the fjord. There were no church bells here, no wedding playlists, no bridesmaids laughing behind closed doors, just water, rock, stillness. I made oatmeal with local berries. I didn't check my phone. By late afternoon, the wedding had likely started. Maybe Fiona was walking down the aisle in something lace and delicate, our mother crying on cue. I imagined soft lighting, wildflower centerpieces, filtered joy, and somewhere in the photos there would be a missing space. Not obviously. They'd have rearranged the seating chart, closed the gap, but I knew where I was supposed to be, and I wasn't there. That night, I posted a new image, just my hand holding a ceramic cup against the backdrop of the fjord. The sky was lavender, my nail polish chipped slightly on one finger. Nothing glamorous, nothing posed, no caption. Again, the view list rolled in within minutes. Fiona, our mother. 2 of her friends I hadn't spoken to in years. Still, no one messaged. Still, nothing was said. But this time, I could feel it. The quality of the silence had shifted. It was no longer absence. It was presence withheld. I imagined them scrolling through their phones between dances or dessert courses. Seeing my post in a moment of pause and wondering if it meant something. It did. It meant I knew. It meant I was watching, not out of jealousy or malice, but because I had once mattered. And now I didn't. Not enough to be invited, but enough to haunt the edges of their perfect frames. I didn't post again for 2 days. Let them notice the silence. Let them fill it with whatever story they needed to tell themselves. I had nothing to add. 3 days after the wedding, I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. It was barely 6 o'clock in the morning, and outside, the sky was a pale gray, the kind of color that made you forget the sun existed. The phone kept buzzing, messages, missed calls, more messages. At first I thought someone had died, but the names on the screen told a different story. Lindsay, Aunt Sophia, my mother, then Fiona's college roommate, and finally Renee, the only one who ever really told me the truth. Her message was simple. No greeting, no build-up. You need to see this. She attached a link to a TikTok. No context, just a thumbnail of what looked like a reception hall and something blurry flying through the air. I hesitated. I wasn't sure I wanted to open it. I wasn't sure I wanted to know, but I clicked. The video started mid-chaos, shouting, gasps, movement. A bridesmaid was screaming, not in joy but in fury, her voice cracking as she threw a bouquet across the room, not in ceremony but in rage. People were standing, turning, backing away. Someone knocked over a centerpiece. Glass shattered somewhere off-screen. Then the camera found Fiona. She was crying. Not delicate tears, but shaking, red-faced, mascara running. She was yelling something, though the audio was distorted. The voice that came next was clearer. You were my best friend, Fiona, your maid of honor, and you were sleeping with him the whole time. The voice belonged to Paige, her best friend since freshman year, the same girl who had helped plan the bachelorette trip, the same girl who apparently had been dating Victor herself. My stomach dropped. Another guest's voice, this one half laughing in disbelief, said, "That's the maid of honor." The camera panned just enough to catch Victor frozen between them, hands raised like a man trying to tame wild animals. He said something no one caught. It didn't matter. The crowd had already started to move, guests whispering, grabbing coats, gathering purses. One woman walked out with her napkin still in her hand. The video ended with Fiona sinking to the floor. I watched it twice. Then I turned my phone over and stared at the ceiling of my cabin. The wood beams creaked in the cold. Somewhere outside, a bird made a sound I couldn't name. The buzzing started again. Voicemails, missed calls, new texts piling on top of old ones. No one said the words, but they didn't have to. Please call me. Your sister's a mess. We need you home. Olivia, please. By noon, I had a voicemail from my mother, her voice wobbling in and out like a radio signal from another life. In it, she said Fiona wasn't eating, that the family was embarrassed, that people were talking. She didn't mention me being right. She didn't apologize. She didn't ask how I was. She just said, period. We don't know what to do without you. I sat at the window, bare feet pressed to the cold floor, watching the fjord ripple under wind. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was from Paige. Not a call, just a message. I'm sorry you weren't there. You probably would have stopped me. The number was unfamiliar, but I recognized it as Paige's from our group texts years ago when we'd planned Fiona's graduation party together. She was wrong. I wouldn't have stopped her. I would have let the truth find its way in, just like I did. By early afternoon, my phone had stopped ringing and started pleading. The voicemails were no longer brisk or annoyed. They were softer now. My mother left 6 of them in under 3 hours, each one a little more afraid than the last. In the third, she was crying, or trying not to. Her voice cracked, in places it never used to. Olivia, she whispered, your sister is devastated. I don't think she's left her room since Saturday. We don't know what to say to her. We need you home. You've always been the strong one, the one who holds everyone together. That line again, the strong one, the one who knew how to carry things, who never asked to be carried. I didn't respond. Instead, I boiled water for tea and stepped outside, letting the steam warm my face while the wind cut through my sleeves. The sky above me was endless, low-hung, quiet. I took a photo of the horizon, faint pink light resting on the edge of a mountain, and posted it without a word. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. She's not well. She keeps asking for you. Olivia, please, just 5 minutes. That one was from my father's sister, a woman who once told me after Dad died that older daughters are like extra mothers. I was 15. I watched the mist drift across the fjord and said nothing. That evening, a message came in from Fiona herself. Not a call, just a text. I know I hurt you. I didn't think it would matter this much. I thought you didn't want to be part of things anymore. Please, I need you. I don't know who else to ask. I stared at the message for a long time. Not because I didn't believe it, but because it was the first real thing she'd said to me in years. But it wasn't enough. Not after all the times she had taken my help, but not my presence. Not after letting me fade out of the family photo without asking if I was still standing there. They didn't miss me. They missed what I did for them. And now that everything was falling apart, they wanted the scaffolding back. But I wasn't made of steel anymore. I had become water, cold, still, unmovable. It was almost midnight when the phone rang again. This time, I picked up. Not out of forgiveness. Not because I'd softened. I just didn't want the silence to say everything for me. Olivia. My mother breathed like she'd been holding her voice for hours. I didn't speak. She waited, then filled the space the way she always did, with explanation disguised as care. She's not doing well, she said quietly. Fiona, she barely eats. She doesn't come downstairs. She keeps asking if you've responded. I could hear the clink of something ceramic in the background. Her kitchen, most likely. Probably the same blue teacup she always used when she needed to appear gentler. I wish you were here, she added. I looked out the window of my cabin. Outside, the fjord had turned to glass. The sky was low and endless, the kind of cold that made sound feel smaller. I said finally. For years. You just didn't see me. There was a pause. Not defensive, not quick. Just still. I didn't know you felt that way, she said, her voice thinner now. You never asked. She let out a breath, not quite a sigh, just the sound of realizing there's no script left that still works. I'm sorry, she said, but it came out like a question. I didn't answer. Somewhere in the silence, she understood, because for once, she didn't try to fix it. No excuses, no soft rewrites of history, just the sound of her breath, the faint chime of a clock in the background, the quiet of two people realizing something had ended a long time ago. And this was just the echo. Are you coming home? She asked after a while. I looked around the room, the wooden floor, the wool blanket on the chair, the sound of wind against the windows. Everything simple. Everything mine. No, I said gently. I think I'm finally home. We didn't say goodbye. We just let the call fade. I sat there a while listening to the quiet. It didn't hurt anymore. It didn't comfort me either. It just felt true. The next morning, I woke early. The cabin was still. The kind of stillness that doesn't ask anything from you. I wrapped myself in a thick sweater and stepped onto the back deck. The fjord below was smooth as glass, reflecting the pale gold of a rising sun. The sky stretched wide and empty, and for once that emptiness felt like peace. I made tea, scribbled a few lines in my journal, then pulled out the thick stationery I'd brought from home but never used. I wrote one letter, short, plain. No accusations, no lists of what had been done or left undone. Just this. I hope you find peace. I hope you tell the truth. I hope next time the invitation comes before the apology. Olivia. I signed it with my full name, folded it carefully, addressed it to the house I grew up in. No return address. I walked into town later that day and dropped it in a blue postbox near a bakery that smelled like cardamom and ash. The man behind the counter nodded as I passed, recognizing me from the morning before. Cold today, he said. Not as much as yesterday. On the way back, I stopped by the edge of the fjord. A single bench faced the water. I sat for a while, sipping coffee from a paper cup, watching the steam rise and disappear. My phone was still in my pocket, untouched. When I returned to the cabin, I posted one last photo. A chair, wooden, empty, framed by mist. Beyond it, the fjord. No caption, but I knew they'd see it. Not because they followed me, but because people always notice what's missing once it's too quiet for too long. That night, I didn't check messages. Didn't scroll. Didn't wonder what they were saying back home. Instead, I made soup, lit a candle, pulled a blanket across my lap, and read the same page of a book 3 times. Not because I was distracted, but because I wasn't in a hurry to leave the quiet. There was no victory in this, just clarity. No closure, just space. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel erased. I just felt free.